Most people are so caught up in the finite goals where there's a big definitive beginning and a definitive end, and they don't realize that no, it's more of an infinite game. That it's like if somebody wants to be a happy person, right? There's no ending to being a happy person. You have to constantly be working at it.
Welcome to The Path to Wealth, the show about well-being, fulfillment, and financial freedom. And I'm your host, Hannes Henschel. Hi everyone, welcome back to The Path to Wealth. Today we have Bennett Schwartz, a performance and executive coach who has been helping people live their best lives possible for years. His practice has coached in various fields who have recently come out with the book, Lost Then Found, with teachers, people how to combat limiting beliefs, anxiety, imposter syndrome, and how to start moving toward their greatest selves. It's great to have you here with us, Bennett. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Hannes, for having me. I really appreciate it. I see what you're doing on LinkedIn. It's really cool, and I really am excited to share whatever value I can with the audience.
Awesome. I love it. So, let's dive right in. Where did you find your passion for helping people, coaching people, overcoming? Do you have a own, maybe a story or a journey of overcoming something that gave you the toolkit? What's your personal story behind this?
Sure, yeah. So, I think everybody has their own journey, and I think everybody could share their experiences that they've been through. For me personally, my journey started in education. I used to be a teacher in a bunch of high schools for over a decade, and really looking to help the students, not necessarily in the classroom, more outside the classroom. I always like to say I enjoyed working with students more in the informal education as opposed to the formal education, or really seeing how they can blossom as individuals and really see how it is that they can really step into whatever it is that they're looking to do. And then when I transitioned from that to coaching, I was like, I could do the same thing just with adults in different areas of life. So ever since then, it's been really, really from there.
Yeah. I think there's also something about the informal part of education is where people are a bit more driven, right? Like most of the time when I'm in a formal education setting, especially in school, I might not be there voluntarily.
Yeah, for sure. And I think I think that's a great point, because I think so many times people don't realize, what they're actually capable of. And I think there are a lot of good teachers out there who could teach over information, but there's more of a feeling to the informal aspect, because when kids are going through something, my big belief is that everything's connected. So if we could work on the person at the core, then everything else will be able to really look to do, we could look to do well in. So when we're working with students, and I think adults and professionals as well, if things are going wrong in people's personal lives, it's going to affect them in their work, right? So same thing with kids. If things are going in their social life, it's going to affect them in their schooling. So really getting down to the core of what's going on with the individual and trying to figure out what it is that we could work on. Because if we could work on the person and really look to see how they can show up, once they show up, they're going to be able to step into whatever situation is a lot better and give them a better chance to really look to succeed.
Yeah. So what would you say is the biggest difference between doing that with younger students to adults? Because I think kids or younger students, they're less rigid yet, and once we get into our 30s and 40s and we try to change as adults in our career, we have so many patterns that we adopted without consciously thinking about.
Yeah, for sure. I think there's each individual or each genre of age really has their pros and cons. So, like you just pointed out, when people are older, it's harder for them to change certain habits that they've had. When they're younger, it's easier to sort of teach them, okay, hey, this is like what we should be doing, and you get more just be able to work on them throughout the course of their lives. On the other hand, usually when adults are coming to me, they want to change, they want to learn, they want to see what it is that they could do to improve their life. And once they see that, they're actually more willing to digest and understand. So one of the hardest things to do with the teenagers, which I still work with some of them, is trying to get them to buy into the system, right? Getting them to buy in, like, your life doesn't have to be like this. Like, you can have an incredible life even though you're only in high school, right? Or you're only 20 years old, whatever it is. because there is a possibility and there's a lifestyle that you can have. And for people to think that they need to wait till X to become happy or to get meaning or fulfillment in their life is just fake, and it's not true. So just because you're somebody who's a teenager, you can still be living a meaning of fulfilling life. And when you're in your 50s and 60s, you could also be living a meaning of fulfilling life. And people just don't know how to do that. They just don't know there's like a system and a way to do that. And honestly, people are not taught that. So my job is to come in and say, hey, this is what you can start doing every single life, whether you're successful in whatever area it is that you want or not. Like, we could separate those two, still looking to live that life that we want to live, as well as looking to succeed in our professional or relationships or whatever other areas it is.
Yeah. But I think part of that is we're being sold on everything that's good is at the end of things, like we're being sold
right.
to work very hard, and then at retirement, I don't know, for whatever little left of energy there is in our system, we can enjoy some part of life, and so it's not really in the school system to work towards fulfillment and enjoying the journey. It's rather about at this stage you're trying to get into that school and get that degree, and then you're trying to get there, and then you get a job, and it's like this continuous. At the next level you will be fulfilled. At the next level you will be happy. So it's not really in the what I would say in the common space that fulfillment can be found at every step of the way.
100%. And I think that's like the real difference between happiness and joy, because when people achieve a goal, so they are going to get a sense of happiness. Like, and if you ever achieved a goal, your first podcast that you posted, like, it was a great feeling. But when you're up to when you're doing it for a long time, okay, each podcast isn't like the biggest feeling, isn't the biggest excitement, right? But why not? So and just knowing that we go through those experiences, it's like, when you get your millionth subscriber, you're going to feel amazing. But guess what? That feeling is going to flee. So knowing that beforehand, like, okay, so now let's be proactive about it. So if it's not about hitting the goals, which I believe hitting the goals are important and it's going to help us move in life, but understanding that it doesn't have to happen when we hit the goal, because when we hit the goal, we're going to just want to hit another goal. There's always going to be something, and that's okay. Being in pursuit of a meaningful goal is okay, but understanding that the journey is really where life happens, right? The one time that we get our goal is going to be the time where, okay, we're going to be happy during that time, but that's not going to give us the joy, the constant joy that we're all looking for. And one of the big wake-up calls for me was, I remember when I was in college, I was speaking to one of my friends, and I remember in high school he won back-to-back championships in his hockey on his hockey team, and I was like, dude, it's amazing, you're a champion, you won back-to-back, and like he's like, all right, I was like, okay, like, we won, like, it wasn't a big deal. And for me, for somebody who didn't win a championship, I was like, but what are you talking about? That's like what you were trying to do. Like, you were trying to win championships. And I realized that for me, since I didn't hit that goal that I wanted, and he hit that goal, and yet he's still like, okay, like, we're still like on the same level, shows that just because I didn't hit a goal doesn't mean I can't be living that lifestyle I want to be living. And there's just like a cool reminder, or cool way to really see it, how just because you don't necessarily hit something doesn't mean you can't be disappointed, doesn't mean you can't be working on yourself and growing, but understanding that, you know what, it's not necessarily about the goal, but it's more about the process. And I think Simon Sinek speaks about this a lot. He talks about like the infinite goals versus the finite goals. And most people are so caught up in the finite goals where there's a big definitive beginning and a definitive end, and they don't realize that, no, it's more of an infinite game. That it's like, if somebody wants to like be a happy person, right? There's no ending to being a happy person. You have to constantly be working at it, right? If you want to be living a fulfilled life, like, there's no end to it. You're constantly working on it. So if we could look to understand and just shift our perspective, saying even our business goals, yes, we might have markers we want to hit, but the goal is to constantly be growing the business, right? It's constantly be working, to growing, to be giving, and to doing all these things that will be able to see the success in its own right, and not necessarily only focus on the goal, but really at life at large. Yeah,
and you said something. It's you can accomplish or not accomplish, but I think there are so many people who get to whatever their goal is and don't have that sense of fulfillment, and I think this is really a challenge, because as a culture, I think in the US, we're living the best life that other generations before us couldn't even imagine. The level of comfort we're having, you know, the level of wealth, prosperity that's in the entire society there is. But I wouldn't say that we have like the highest rate of fulfillment in people.
Yeah, I agree 100% because we're associating, you know, the physical with fulfillment and happiness, and just that's just not true. You look at kids in Africa who are extremely happy with what they have, and what they have is like nowhere near what, you know, the poorest person in America has. And it's just to show you that our situation of what's going on in life is not an indicator of our happiness or our fulfillment. It's more of what's our mindset, what's our perspective, and those are the things that we can all change. And we think that certain things are going to, certain accomplishments are going to get us those feelings, and we will get excited and we will be happy. But once we pass on, you know, the first day or a week or 2 weeks or a month or whatever it is after that accomplishment, we're just back to where we were. So where were we? And they, you know, the famous example of like any lottery winner. So after like, I think 6 months, they get back to exactly where they were. What does that mean? You have billions of dollars or whatever it is. And it's like, no, it's not. So when people don't believe it, and I'm trying to show people, like, don't waste your time thinking you'll get there, because hopefully you'll be as successful as you want. And you'll see, okay, it's not worth it. So you'll have some time after the fact to like try to figure that out. But most people don't even like hit the success that they're looking for. So their whole life, they're thinking, oh, if only X, Y, and Z happened. If only I was able to make this much money. If only, you know, I won the championship, I would be happy. But then by living like that and they don't hit their life, like their whole life is just a lie, because when you do hit it, you're not going to feel that. And it's just something that I'm trying to show people beforehand, because you can work on that stuff, and it's really looking to try to figure out whatever it is that you're looking to do.
So if somebody has the clarity in their life to actually make the distinction and wants to start working with you on that, how do you usually approach it? How do you help them kind of get clarity on it?
Yeah, for sure. So I think there's a big dip. You know, one of the things that I'm actually working on my masterclass, my VA is actually currently editing it, and it's two of the modules are, one of them is talking about a meaningful life, and one of them is a fulfilling life. And I think there's a big difference there, because many people want meaning, but people are doing meaningful work. Like, you have parents who are taking care of children. You have teachers who are teaching the next generation. Like, those are like very meaningful acts. Doctors who are, nurses who are saving people's lives, but they don't feel fulfilled. And there's a difference between somebody having a meaningful life and a fulfilling life. And I think the first step is trying to figure out what is meaning to you. And that's where I really try to jump in with people is, okay, what's going on? Why do you want to do the things that you're doing? What's causing you to do these things? And then once we get really clear on the meaning, then we start working on the fulfillment of, okay, how could we really look to appreciate this? How can we look to be present every single day? What are the things that we could do to implement in our lives to really make sure that we're not just living life just by rote, but like actually designing the life and the lifestyle that we really want?
Yeah. So how do you help people that start working with you to get there? You know, what's the process like if somebody starts working with you?
Right. So I think coaching is one of those things that's really, really special. It's funny because I didn't realize that I had a mentor when I was younger who was technically coaching me. I just didn't know he was coaching me. And to me, it was very frustrating because I would always ask questions and I'd always want answers. And he would like never give me the answer. And it was like, just tell me what I should do. And like, he never gave me the answer. I remember I was one time going out with a girl very seriously, and he knew that this girl was not the greatest girl for me, but he didn't say that. And he coached me through it. And after, you know, speaking about her for weeks and months, it came out and I ended up breaking up. And then afterwards, he's like, I'm happy for you, right? But his job wasn't necessarily to tell me what to do. So a coach's job is not to tell people what to do. It's to meet them where they are and to try to show them, try to ask them the questions and bring out of them what it is that they really want to do. Because a lot of people just don't know what it is that they want to do. They might be doing certain things because that's how it's always been done, or they had an opportunity so they just took it, but they don't realize, is this really the best opportunity for me in terms of my bigger picture? And really working with people in the first instance of like, where are we right now? Is this where we want to be? Is this the path we want to be on? If yes, okay, great. How can we maximize that? If not, what is the path that we really want to work on?
Yeah, and I think the second one is really what is there for most people, because the majority doesn't doesn't take the time to be like, hey, do I live a life by design? It's more like, okay, this is where I was born. These are the people I know. This is the job that's kind of common where I am. And, you kind of live life by happenstance, not so much by design.
100%. And I think that's where most people work on. And it's interesting because at different phases of people's lives, different things could be meaningful to them. Right? If somebody is single, like their business might be the thing that's meaningful to them. But once they get married, then they have a whole family. And then before they have kids, then you have kids, and your kids. So I think it could constantly be changing, but it's constantly be asking yourself at every stage of your life, what is meaningful to me right now? What is it that I want to work? And there could be underlying themes that are things that are important, but what are those things? And then really, what is it that we need to be doing to move forward in terms of making sure that we're doing those things?
Yeah. But it requires... It could require. I think it's really just a certain kind of person, and which is also the people that are listening. People that want to improve their life, that want to make a difference. And would you say there's more of them around yourself or in our generation? I feel like there's a lot of waking up around myself. Like when I speak to friends at home, that maybe I haven't connected with in a couple of years, there's more and more people now that ask those kind of questions because they feel like the traditional narrative has cheated them a bit. Like the sense of fulfillment isn't there.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think everybody, their whole lives are trying to figure out, okay, what am I doing here? Like, what's the point? And no matter as much as you want to ignore it. I was talking to a gentleman last week, and he has a very successful company. He's in like 16 states, and he has over 50 employees, and he's like killing it in his business. And you were talking, it's like he's like, I don't even know why I'm doing this, but like I'm good at it, so I'm doing it. And it doesn't mean that what he's doing is bad just because he doesn't know why. It's just like, let's just get real clear on what we're doing, because you don't want to wake up in 20 years and be like, why did I just do this? Oh, this is actually not what I wanted to do. I just happened to be good at it, and now I'm doing this. Maybe there's something else I could be doing. So it's really looking to get clear on those things, and it's really asking the hard questions. And a good coach is going to be somebody who's going to be pushing you and asking you those questions. If I can ask you those questions and really bring that out of you, we're going to shorten our time a lot in terms of the things that we need to figure out, and we'll be able to start making the progress that we really want to be doing and making the impact at the end of it, which I think everybody's looking to make an impact, big or small, depending on the person. That's what we're looking to try to do. So
what are some of those questions, the tough questions, the hard questions that really bring out what people want in their life, or how Simon Sinek maybe puts it, the why for people?
Yeah, so I mean, I think that's the number one question. It's why. Why is it that you're doing? And I heard a cool technique by Dean Graziosi, who's like Tony Robbins, like number 2 now. And one of the things that he says is that you should ask the why 7 times deep. And if you could keep getting lower and lower and deeper into why it is that you're doing something, you're going to get to really the core of like what it is that you're looking to do. And it's really important to understand that, those whys, because if we can get to the why, then we can try to figure out whatever it is that we're looking to do. And also, as Jim Rohn says, when the why is strong, the how is easy. Most people get caught up on how they're going to do something, but if you get really clear on why you're doing something, then the how is not going to be as difficult, because you're going to have such a draw to it that it's going to be a lot easier to figure out what those things are that you're looking to do.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's so easy to get caught up in the how. Like, I've crossed borders, countries, continents. If I think in the beginning, if I would have thought about what all the hows that are part of that, I might have never left,
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's where most people get caught up, especially in business. I see there's a lot of the entrepreneurs and executives that I work with. They have these blockages, right? These mental, or they're putting on these like sunglasses of things that need to happen, and they know it needs to happen, right? Like with coaching, and that's different than that's why coaching is different than consulting. Consultants coming in and telling them what to do. Coaches coming there and asking them what they need to do. Right? So most people know what they need to do. The question is, why aren't they doing it? And my job is to help show them those things that they need to do that they already know, and then hold them accountable and come up with a strategy. Okay, what is it that we need to do? So it's like a lot of times what I see is like companies are trying to grow and they need to hire the right people or just need to delegating certain tasks because they need to be doing other things and they can't because for whatever they need to be in control. So it's working with them. How could we let go? How could we do this in an easy way? How can we do it with you to really make sure that things are going to start, moving forward?
So what are some of the mental blocks that you see over and over again? Certain patterns that keep holding back the majority of the people.
Yeah, sure. So a big one is fear of failure. Everyone has fear of failure. Nobody wants to fail. Which, to me, I could talk about like how I would coach somebody in each of these areas, but that's definitely a big one. Imposter syndrome is always going to be something because I think at every single level that somebody grows, there's always going to be another level of imposter syndrome of thinking that they can't do it. They're not, entitled or capable of doing it. And really showing somebody, no, you are capable of doing this. Like the people who are also on this playing field were where you were, and all you need to do is just show up and do the thing that you need to do. So I think those are definitely two of the big ones. Confidence, surprisingly, even for people who are like really successful, is something that pops up. And I think it comes in waves sometimes. So like they'll have the confidence and then something will happen that they will lose the confidence, and it's really just looking and working with them to get that confidence and the juice back.
Yeah. You said something like even the people that are successful. Sometimes I feel like people are successful because they have a lack of confidence and they compensate through success. They're like, oh, there's something I can point at. And I feel like there's some people who are very healthy within their own skin and who really, I don't know, in a natural way sat down with themselves, who kind of understand their place in the world, that are very comfortable, for example, with living a certain kind of life, and that could, like I've seen people building, literally building like small houses for themselves in the woods, and that's like a smashing success based on their design of life. And then I see others that are going by maybe the status quo of success, who feel extremely unfulfilled. And, obviously you can look at them as successful, but there is that expression of lack of confidence or also lack of fulfillment.
Yeah, for sure. And I think most people who haven't seen the success that they're looking for think that the people who have seen the success don't go through any of these things. Like they don't have a fear of failure. We're talking about they're successful. They don't have the lack of confidence because they're already successful. Like they need the confidence to get there. And it's really showing people that wherever you are, there are going to be people going through certain things. And it's really looking to show people that, because so many times we hold ourselves back because, I don't have enough confidence to do something, because I'm just starting out. And it's not a lack of confidence. And at that moment you need courage, right? That's one of the big things I work with my clients. It's before we get confidence, we have to be courageous, and we have to look to step into the moment that we're looking to do. So once we could step into the moment and we get the experience, then we can become confident in a certain situation. There's a difference between like false confidence and overconfidence, but in regards to stepping into a situation, thinking we need confidence, that's not the case. We need to be courageous in the moment, and once we could be courageous over and over and over, and hopefully get easier over time, then we'll be able to have the confidence to say, hey, look at all these things that I've done. Now I'm confident in the situation. Yeah.
So for someone that you work with, where you feel like there's a lack of confidence, how do you help them build that?
Right. So it's funny. I had somebody, an owner of a company, come over to me, and they did $500 million in sales. Okay, like $500 million in sales. And he came over to me. He's like, Bennett, I lost my confidence in my sales. And I was like, dude, like, you should be teaching me about sales. What are you talking about? Like, what are you talking? And it was hilarious because on the one hand he sold so much. On the other hand, it was sad. He came out and he's like, no, I was at a conference, and there was this one of these companies that we work with had all their employees there, and he called me out in front of everybody. He like made something up and he made fun of him in front of everybody, and he just like got hit with such, like, his self-esteem got so hit that he's like, I can't close people. Like, I just can't. Like, what am I supposed to do? And I was like, all right, let's figure out what we need to do. And we started working together. And at first, we started taking baby steps. And it's like, okay, what are the first things we need to do? It's like, we need to start calling people again. Like, and he just wasn't calling people. I'm like, so let's start there. I'm like, let's just call people. I don't care if they pick up, if you leave a message, if you hang up, just, I want you to dial the numbers and press send. Like that was our goal. And we did that. And then after a week, the next week we got to try to get and speak to people, try to get them to say yes or no, to get on the phone with people. Okay, yes or no. So if they said yes, okay, great. Now we got to like take it a step further. And it's really just slowly building up our confidence again of being courageous, because for him, dialing a number on a phone was so uncomfortable. So it's looking to be courageous to step into that. And it sounds so silly and so minuscule in terms of like the thing they need to do. But whatever area someone needs to do, if somebody's doing, I don't know, in any other area, what are the small steps that you can do that you're just a little scared to do? And okay, now's not the time to be confident. Now's the time I need to be courageous and step into this moment and start taking those little steps. And if we could start constantly pushing ourselves and holding them accountable. And there were weeks he didn't do it. And I was like, okay, why didn't we do it? And we had to talk about it and strategize and figure it out. But having that coach, that accountability on him was what got him to get through it. And after a couple of weeks, he was like closing again. I was like, okay, great. I'm happy to help.
Yeah. And it's true. This way you build a track record first of action, and then action eventually leads to results. And then you're like, hey, now we're back on track, and slowly start feeling better. And I can probably personally relate to that. Like, so many times we know what we have to do, and you mentioned that earlier, and we're not doing it. And the lack of doing it is actually robbing ourselves of confidence, because we know what we should do. We also know we're not doing it. And there's just like time passes and you feel like you're not living up to your potential.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's a huge one, because the Jim Rohn also says that about just our own self-esteem and self-worth. If we don't do the things that we know we should be doing, that's only going to hurt us. And we all know we should be doing things, whether it's in our health, our relationships, our business, whatever area it is that we're looking to do. And we tell ourselves this story, I didn't do this one thing. I didn't wake up early again today. I snoozed again, right? All these things. So that's only hurting our confidence and and our self-esteem. And the way to really switch that is just slowly start to do those things. And if we could start doing the small disciplines, then we could move forward and to take on the action to make those things happen. And then we can actually look to do the bigger things that we're looking to really do.
100%. And it starts with the small things. I'll give you a personal example. I haven't missed my morning meditation in over four months. I think I'm going towards 5 months now. And that's something that it just had to become a priority. And I knew I could feel it, that I was falling off the wagon a little bit. And then I was just so bugged out that I was like, okay, screw it. This is a non-negotiable. And it feels so good just to look back on the track record, and obviously also the positive benefits of simply doing it. And that's how I'm building credibility, basically just with myself, forget about other people. But I'm sure it also, if you keep doing things and you keep stacking things, just like you build trust with people by being a predictable and honorable person over and over again, you can do the same with yourself.
Yeah, 100%. And I think if you could be honest with ourselves, I think it's one of the biggest things. And that goes back to like what we were talking about meaning before, is I think people that aren't just authentic with who they really are. People don't know who they are, because there's so much pressure to be other people, to get people to like them, that they don't know who they are. And if we could look to be authentic, then we could look to really start to do the things that we want to be doing, which is going to just only build our self-esteem and our self-confidence.
Well, but it's hard, because for that you have to step out of the narrative of whichever community you might be part of, or family you might be part of, or friend circle you might be part of, and you have to make up your own mind about all those things. And I think this is where people sometimes get thrown back. And then also there's something I noticed, that, for example, when I'm growing, when I'm exposing myself to other communities that are maybe go-getters, growers, one becomes part of that groupthink, maybe. And I think that's when it's really invaluable to do the internal work for yourself, and have that regular meditation, so you always fall back on what you truly want to do. And don't get distracted in the path by having exposure to more and more different groups or different schools of thoughts, maybe.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think just taking that step back, And it doesn't need to be, I'm a big fan of meditation also. I do my routine in the morning. And it's constantly realigning yourself to what your values are and what the things that you want to be doing. But I think a lot of people don't even have that time of day, or they never thought to ask themselves that question, or they thought about it and then they didn't actually think about it. So it's really asking yourself those tough questions. And I think as a coach, that's my job. My job is to help meet a person where they are. And even if I disagree with them, it doesn't matter, because it's not about me, it's about them. And really asking them, what is it that we want to be doing? How is it that we want to be doing it? How can I help you get to wherever it is that you're looking to get to? And people, like you said before, just don't ask themselves that question.
Yeah. I have another question. As a coach, I'm sure you sometimes you have people who have the clarity, okay, I need a coach, I want to get results. But then as you go through everything with them, you realize that there's only so much you can do for someone. Even, somebody who doesn't want to be helped, you can't help them, despite them maybe engaging you, as their coach. Or I've seen other people going to therapists for 12 years and nothing changed.
Yeah, for sure. And that's why I've fired clients before. Even people who are willing to pay me just because if I'm helping you and working with you and you're just being lazy about it, it's not even like there's like a mental block. It's just like you don't care enough to do it. It's not going to work, So it's you have to be ready for coaching. You have to be open to it, and you have to be willing to do the work. And if you're not willing to do the work, then you're just wasting both of our times.
Yeah, 100%. But it's sometimes the person might not even notice, because for them, they are trapped in their own narrative, something that's running in their head, and they think that, okay, I have a coach, I'm actually progressing. Do you think that, for example, you as a coach making the call of firing them might be a wake-up call?
Yeah, for sure. I think it's a big wake-up call. And it's not like I just fire them, out of the blue.
Yeah.
It's like
Gone.
I'm talking to them about it.
Yeah.
It's like, what is going on? Like, why aren't you taking action? Like, are you being lazy? Maybe there is a mental block. What's going on with why we're not doing something? And if you're being too immature, like there's like, I don't work with like kids because I think there's just an immaturity level there. And if you're just being too immature to actually take hold of your life, I'm here to help you with that. But if you're not willing to do any of the work, it's not going to happen. Like, my job is not to do the work. My job is to help you and strategize with you in order to get that stuff to happen. But it's your job to really make sure that things are moving along.
Yeah, people need to have a sense of responsibility, like that majority that you're speaking about. It's like, and I think this is a really interesting one, where you look at people and you see, do they take ownership for what's going on in their life or not? And I think the closer you get to the metric of like sincere ownership for whatever is going on, I think the more coachable they become, no?
Yeah, 100%. And honestly, that's like the people who sign up are like, I want to do something different. They don't know what it is necessarily, but they know something's off and they know they need to change. And those are like the best people to work with, because like you can actually help them. Even like small things. Like a lot of those clients of mine, like they came in, it's like just small shifts that we started like tweaking, and like you can see that like we still got ways to go, but you can see the change so quickly, because they're already looking to just continue to grow and to learn. And my job's not to hold on to them forever. It's to help them, be able to fly their own wings. And once they're able to do that, it's like amazing to really see them, people that they take off.
What you just said is something that struck me with therapists. I've seen, as I mentioned, people going there for way too many years. And I was like, wait, this is just like a recurring revenue model for the therapist. Like they just keep chatting. And there's like, I don't really see those people truly improving their life. And I think that's really tough, because I mean, I think a coach more than a therapist maybe should be part of my life for longer. Like a therapist should help me get through certain things, or set me straight. And then a coach is always there to challenge you, to take you to the next level, to find more altitude, to find the next level of what you can do. Because I think the reality is most people are not, including myself, bringing the best out of themselves unless they are challenged. And I think that's where an amazing coach comes in.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I don't know if therapists are doing it on purpose as like a revenue scheme, but it was interesting. I heard this one coach talk about I know, maybe some are, which good for them, but. I heard this one coach say this cool idea that with therapy, their job is to get somebody from, let's say, -1 to 0. It's like get them back to like their normal life, and then they have to move forward. With coaching, it's getting somebody from 0 or -1 to +1, right? And it's like looking to do more things. And like you said, I think it's a great point where we could all always be doing more. Like all of us could always be doing more. And even when we hit our goals, there are going to be other goals. So with a coach, it's this idea that we need to constantly be working on ourselves, to constantly be doing more, and to have that accountability for that person. Okay, when we hit a goal, let's celebrate. Let's be proud of ourselves. Like, but what's next? Like, what are we doing next? And it's constantly looking to work on ourselves to make ourselves better. And there are always different areas, whether it's in our business or in our just own personality, character traits or relationships. Like there's always other areas that we could be working on, and it's really looking to constantly pushing ourselves and really having that accountability and that help with somebody who's like, hey, I'm on your team and we're going to figure this out. We're going to make this happen.
Yeah. So in the pursuit of more, in the pursuit of growth, how do we make sure that we don't live for tomorrow, that we actually have a sense of fulfillment? How do you have people kind of to dial into the presence of their life and what is there now for them to experience?
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's honestly, one of the biggest tricks in life, right? How is it possible that I can set a goal that's going to take me 10 years, but also live in the present moment? Like we think naturally that the fact that I'm not where I want to be, I'm lacking something until I get it, right? That's where most people think. However, that's not necessarily true. Because yes, we might have a goal, and that's going to help us on our journey, but living every single day in the present is what we need to really do. And that's like one of the things I do with my meditation. It's like, hey, like how present can I be? What can I do right now to be present? And Brendon Burchard has this really cool technique that he uses, that every time he's looking to go from one activity in his day to the next, so whether it's one meeting to the next meeting, or from his lunch to his work, or work to home, whatever it is, he pauses for like a few seconds. And he says, how do I need to show up for this next thing that I'm going to do? And who needs me the most right now? And it takes about 3 or 4 seconds, and that's all you need to do. But every time you step into a moment, you're going to start showing up a little differently. You're going to be so much more present with what it is that you're looking to do. You're going to have so much more direction in terms of the situation, that you're going to be able to really show up and just be in the moment. So people are just so focused on the future that they're not living right now. They're so focused. But it's like, what can we do today in order to live today, to help ourselves for tomorrow, but also living today? Because that's the most important right now, because who knows how long we're going to live for, right? We don't know. So might as well live for today, because we know we are here right now. And that's all we could really guarantee.
Yeah. But at the same time, it takes energy to be present. It takes focus to be present.
Oh, 100%.
And I think people are so used to anticipate the future or dwell on the past, that they get carried away and kind of miss out on what is there at any given moment.
Yeah, 100%. And it's the hardest thing to do. I'm saying like this is very easy. Like this is extremely difficult, and it's honestly like why I have a job, right? Because it's hard for people to do. But it's that constant reminder that we need to like remind ourselves and do that every single time I show up to something. It's how am I going to show up? How intentional can I be? That's a beautiful word, intentional. Like how intentional can I be with this thing that I'm going to do?
Yeah, and the what you mentioned from Brendon Burchard, he really has that intention. Like, whenever he moves into a different room or something, he sets the intention, and I think that's a crucial piece to living a full life. Is also being intentional, because 20 years can pass by in no time. Like we can just do something random and a decade goes like this.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's like one of the hardest parts about living that fulfilled life, is looking to be so present with what it is that you're doing. When you're with your family, be present with your family. With your friends, be present when you're at work, be present with work. Whatever it is that you're looking to do, if you can be there, your life is gonna be totally changed.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, but it's not that easy to do, especially in this day and age. I mean, you mentioned LinkedIn at the beginning, and you and me are both very active on LinkedIn, and it's so easy to get carried away. And I took quite a couple weeks off lately, and I also went deeper on my meditation practice and kind of reconnected in my own way. And coming back to it, it was like so black and white, the level of demand that is on us in modern day, and the level of access people have to us through technology. It gets really, really obvious once you disconnect for like a month the way I did. It at the same time, it's beautiful. Like, it allows us, for you and me, to connect right now despite being apart. It allows us to build businesses and do certain things, but it's also challenging. Like, it almost feels like we're not really wired to have so much news feed, so many demands, so many people calling in on us, so much stuff, and it keeps that frenzy. And if we're not intentional with how we frame our day, like, for example, every morning I don't sleep where my phone is, or my phone rather isn't where I sleep. And I try to be very intentional around that I take my morning bath and I do my meditation, and I do all of that before I touch my phone.
Yeah, I think that's key, and though that's the challenge, I guess, of our days, but doesn't mean that there are not people like you who are actually doing it. So, like, it's hard, but what type of life? It's hard to do, but it's also hard not. It's hard not to do. Like, if you want to live that type of lifestyle, then don't do it. But, like, then you're just not gonna have that, have that feeling. So the question is, like, are we going to put the work in? Are we going to be disciplined, or are we going to just allow, life to do its thing and then just feel like garbage? So that's a choice we get to all make.
Yeah. And I mean, there's something about, there's multiple books. People have been interviewing elderly people closer to death. And I think one of the biggest factors is regret.
Yeah.
People close to their deathbed, is that when the energy is depleted, life is slowly leaving, and they feel like they didn't leave it all on the table. Like, they didn't go for the dreams. They didn't ask the tough questions. They didn't tell people that they love them.
Yeah, I think that's a big one. And I think, the further somebody is from, being elderly, we don't see it as much. So it's having these books and these people and speaking to the elderly and saying, hey, what was it like when you were younger? Really trying to figure out and see, like, what, like, yeah, it's scary when you're older because you don't think that, things will happen. And I've been watching, I saw some of these videos about this gentleman who was interviewing, people not even so old, like in their 60s and 70s, and is asking them, like, what do you think? Like, what's going on? And they were all so shocked they all felt so young. Their bodies just looked older. And it's, I think, something that we're all going to feel like on the inside the same young 20, 30-year-old self, but we're just not going to be able to do things different, the same physically or, mentally. So it's like trying to recognize that and saying, like, when you have that opportunity, like, take advantage of it, because you don't know how long you're going to have that opportunity for.
Yeah, 100%. There's different things that we can only do at certain stages in life. Well, Bennett, one of my favorite questions that I usually like to ask at the very end is, what do you consider a life well lived?
I think if somebody could really honestly figure out who they are, how, like, what it is that they really believe in, and then taking the actions based on those thoughts that they have and doing the things that they really want to do, I think you'll definitely have a well-lived life. I think the trick, like we've been speaking about, is people don't know what it is that they want. And even if it is that they know what they want, their social pressures or the other pressures of the fears that we hold ourselves back with stop us from doing those things. And if we can look to in spite of those, look to continue to take those actions and to do those things, I think people will be able to live a very well-lived life just because they're living life on their terms, and that's what we all should be doing.
Yeah. And what does this mean for you personally? What are you stepping towards right now?
So for me personally, I'm working on just the message that I'm trying to spread, the impact that to me, my big word is impact. So how can I have the biggest impact and do the biggest things, and looking to really, speak to people like you to really get the message across that people can be living an incredible life. Like, they don't have to be settling, and just showing people what it is that they need to be doing and discussing and speaking to them and feeling for them and really working with them to show, hey, like, you can actually be doing incredible things, both professionally but also on a personal level, and looking to really step it up and take on as much as you really can in order to live that life that we're all capable of living, and not be scared and hold ourselves back.
Yeah, I like that. Especially the holding back part is there way too often. Well, Bennett, thank you so much for making the time talking to me. Where can people connect with you and find out more about your coaching, your masterclass that's coming up?
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's been a pleasure speaking to you also. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can definitely DM me over there, Bennett Schwartz, or if you want to, I have a website, bwschwartz.com. That's bwschwartz.com. So you can find me over there.
Awesome. We'll also make sure to add it to the show notes.
Amazing. All right, Giannis, thank you.
Thank you for joining us at The Path to Wealth. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. Check out our upcoming guests and be sure to share it with all your friends and family that want to take their life to the next level of wealth.